Another player that I want you to try and explain to me from this team has got to be Fur, who I actually think's probably been the best player in this team so far. Like, he's the player where, like, maybe you could say this about Cello the last few months or something, he looked pretty good. But aside from that, like, Fur for real, I actually think could just be the best. Like, if Furia's the best Brazilian, he could beat Furia, in my opinion. Like, he actually looks for real. Like, he's just, like, this guy just has some, like, insane talent for Counter-Strike. Because, again, I doubt he's putting in the most hours out of anyone. He, even on the team, looks like the one who just sort of chills the most. Doesn't seem as bothered by some of the other stuff. So the question I have is this, right? People might know that, as mad as this sounds, back in, like, I think it was in 2019, mate, when we were at this event in China, one of the Star Series events, he did like a troll tweet where he pretended to retire. Do you remember this? He just did a tweet where it's just, he basically just said, like, straight up, like, I retire or something, like, in a tweet. And I thought it was real. Like, I thought, holy shit, because at the time, the same thing. The rumor was, like, maybe he's the guy who doesn't put in as much hours outside the game. Maybe he's the guy who only wants to compete in this one team. And if the team's not good, maybe, you know, maybe he's lost interest. So what I would ask is this: one, can you explain a bit about who he is? But then two, the other thing is, it's implied to me, if I look at his career, like, even though, like I say, maybe I would put him, like, football manager style into the top team and have him compete for it. It sounds like maybe he doesn't want to do that aspect of his career anymore. He's not just want to be in any one team, he wants to be in this specific team, or he wants to play with Fallen specifically, or with that same group of players. Is there a reason why he doesn't just go sort of freelance? Like, he could be in a FaZe class, in my opinion. What do you think?
I think for Fair, at least when I coached him a little bit in the Imperial project before this one, it was like a Brazilian roster and stuff. When I met him and started like to actually, see the way he plays and the way he thinks about CS and stuff, because prior to this, like, we had talks and stuff like that, but I didn't know how Fair was as a player. But when I met him, it was a little bit weird because, like, he wanted to play in certain roles and the way he thought about CS just in general after the SK period and luminosity and stuff, like, he wanted to lurk in some maps and be like, play like outer positions and stuff like that. And one of the first things that I remember telling him was like, that's a little bit weird because, like, for me, I always saw Fair as a very aggressive player, a guy that needs freedom, a guy that makes impact and needs freedom to do the stuff that he used to do, probably one of the best players on Overpass back in the days, like, together with Rain, right? Like, pretty much created the meta that we still see a little bit nowadays with Gretchen and stuff like that. So when I started to talk to him and see the way he thought about CS was a little bit weird, and apparently, like, that's the way he wanted to play. He wanted to lurk in some maps, and it was weird because as T, he wanted to lurk, and then as CT, he does have, like, probably, like, the best roles in the game. So, like, roles like, connector on Overpass, and then A on Overpass as well. So roles that actually needed to be super active and making plays and stuff like that. And when, at least in my eyes, when you put yourself in a position as T where you're lurking and you're not really active, like, for me, there is a conflict, because let's say you start a match on T side and you start lurking and stuff like that, and then you have a rough game. Then suddenly you have to play CT and have to be very active. You have to be confident to make plays and stuff like that. So that was one of the conversations I had with him that was a little bit weird about the fact that he wanted to play like that. And I think partly the reason why that happened is because towards the end of, like, MIBR and SK and those rosters, I think they tried switching him around row-wise, and I think for some reason he started to like it. Like, I don't really know. Like, I just remember him telling me that, like, but in this team I was playing, like, for example, Dust 2. He wasn't taking map control. He was, like, holding long, and, like, he was doing a couple plays, taking one-on-ones and stuff, but that's it. And I was like, Fair, I think you should be taking map control. That's where naturally you're really good at. You're really skilled. Like, for me, it doesn't make much sense, but he wanted to play that way. And with Fair, it's always like this, like, I think Fair is a guy that for him to perform, he needs to feel comfortable, for sure, 100% comfortable in the game, gets the things that he wants to do. It's not like he's super, like, stricted about, like, if I'm not going to play my way, then I don't want to play. It's not like that, but it's more like, I think he loses a little bit of motivation, So I think partly one of the reasons why Fair dropped a little bit or didn't play for international teams and stuff like that, I think it's also because first he always played with Brazilians, and for some reason he always felt comfortable playing with Fallen and stuff like that. And I agree with you, like, I don't see Fair competing for any international rosters purely because of the fact that he likes to be around Fallen. He, like, when we started the project, for example, he even played for, I think, 00 Nation with KNG and some of the other guys, and without getting into too much details, like, I could tell that he wasn't happy at all. That's mainly it. Like, even though he was playing good, he had all he wanted, but doesn't feel normal for him, doesn't feel natural. So he always wanted to play with his friends, and I think plays a huge part on his career in general. Like for him, it's not about trying to be the best player in the world, or trying to compete, or trying to like earn as much money as possible. It really is about being happy, playing with people he likes, being around people that he loves, and that's mainly it. It has been like this ever since I met him, even before I coached him, talking to him and stuff. And yeah, the guy literally doesn't care like about probably being one of the best players. Like, and to some extent, I cannot say that he doesn't put up like the work for it, because he does put a lot of hours, like for example, every time we are boot camping and stuff, he was always one of the guys being there for a long time, watching a lot of games. He watches a lot of Counter-Strike, way more than I actually believed he did, because there's also this joke about Fear not, preparing enough for games, like, and then he even gave interviews already saying like, I don't like to prepare too much, I like to play my own game. And even for me, it was challenging. It would be challenging if I didn't have the experience I have nowadays. But with a player like Fer, I totally get him, because like he plays in positions and he likes to play in a certain way that if I feel him too much information, and if he gets way too much information about the opponents and stuff like that, I think that would massively impact his game. So I totally understood why that joke was around, and it's actually true that he doesn't like to know too much about the opponents. He would rather play his own game. But then again, it conflicts with some of his own thoughts about the game, about, role-wise and what he wants to do and stuff like that. Still, performance-wise, yeah, I mean, he was probably one of the best players in the Imperial roster when I was coaching. Really talented, has a lot of potential. It's just not his thing. Answering your question very straightforward, it's not his thing. Trying to be the best player in the world and compete for like join FaZe Clan and stuff and be around people that he doesn't really know. Like that's just not his thing. And on top of that, I think he's been having a couple problems, real life issues with his family and stuff. So for him nowadays, it just makes more sense to chill, play a little less, be around Brazil a lot more together with his friends and stuff. I think that the focus for him changed a little bit over time. Now more than ever, like he would definitely not put up the work of like moving to a different country to compete just for the sake of trying to be the best player. Like we're not gonna see that from Pure. Yeah.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or be a pleb and don't.